Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Avenir. Allow me to briefly introduce to you the Institute and the department. Established as the Roorkee College in 1847, our institute was rechristened as the Thomson College of Civil Engineering in 1854. Formerly known as the University of Roorkee, this institution also happens to be the first technical university of independent India. In the year 2001, it was elevated to the status of an IIT. Now, coming to our department, it was commissioned in 1998. The Department of Management Studies rightfully believes the juxtaposition of theory and practice is what turns MBA into a fruitful venture. With eminent faculty from both academia and industry, the department also boasts a large number of research scholars. Coming to our awards and achievements, it is a matter of great pride for us that IIT Roorkee was ranked first in management in India by Times Higher Education World University Rankings for Emerging Economies 2019. While IIT Roorkee as a whole was ranked the third best university in the country, it was placed at 35th position globally. IIT Roorkee also secured first position among the IITs in the citations per faculty parameter by QS World University Rankings. Leaving behind many reputable B schools including many IIMs, over the last 3 years, IIT Roorkee has consistently figured among the top 10 MBA colleges in India, as per the National Institute ranking framework brought out by the Ministry of Human Resource Development. We are ranked 12th as per the NIRF 2020 and first in the parameter of research and professional practice. Students here have actively participated in various national and international level competitions and exams. A few highlights are: four students have cleared CFA Level 1 and one has cleared FRM Level 1 in 2019. Four students have bagged All India ranks in top 15 in Flip National Challenges 2019. Many have won accolades in various B school events held in IIMs, IITs, and other management colleges. Looking at the demographics of batch of 2020, it was a batch of 77 students having an average work experience of 25 months. The pre-placement offers witnessed a gigantic 300% increase as compared to the previous years. Some of our recruiters were KPMG, RBS, Infosys, HCL, Future First, and several others. Coming to the demographics of batch 2021, it is a batch of 48 students and has an average work experience of 23 months. The summer placement offered a variety of roles and experiences. Some of our recruiters were KPMG, RBS, RBI, BIRA, Hyperverge, and several others. Coming to our batch of 2020 to 2022, it is a batch of 71 students, including 43 freshers and 28 students having work experience. The average work experience amounts to 24 months. This is also the second batch after 2021, which includes students from commerce backgrounds. This is all about our department. Now today, on behalf of Department of Management Studies IIT Roorkee, we are honored to welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Anupam Gupta. Mr. Anupam has 17 years of experience in incubating and growing big data analytics capabilities for large organizations across retail banking, insurance, and healthcare domains. He is currently the Vice President of Data Science and Machine Learning at Unitedhealth Group, a Fortune 6 company and the largest healthcare service provider in the world. He joined Unitedhealth Group in 2012 and has since played a critical role in helping embedded analytics into operations to help reduce cost of care and improve health outcomes for patients. Prior to Unitedhealth Group, Mr. Anupam spent a decade in analytics consulting space advising retail banks, credit cards, and P&C insurance companies across US, Europe, and Asia on analytic strategies for risk management, customer acquisition and retention, and operations optimization. Mr. Anupam has completed leadership development programs from Graduate School of Business, Stanford University, and ISP. He completed MBA from IIT Roorkee and has a graduate degree in Applied Sciences from Delhi University. So without much further ado, I would like to request Mr. Anupam Gupta to enlighten us through this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the warm welcome and for the introduction. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and talk to all of you. I see 100 plus of you on the call, both first year and second year, and I know you guys have been at it for 3 days. So, guys, that's tremendous, man. I know you're coming to the end of the event, but I hope you've had a good learning experience over the last 3 days. But I think I'm the second last speaker, and I'm very grateful if you're able to pay attention for all of the 60 minutes that is allotted to me, given that you guys have been listening into so many visionaries and leaders over the past 3 days. So all of you look pretty fresh, and I think doing this over over a video is a great idea. So kudos to all of you to be able to hang in there. All of you must be at home right now, right? Nobody must be at campus because of the whole COVID situation. So that's the other thing. I hope everybody's keeping safe and everybody's family is keeping safe as well. We've been largely working from home for the last 6 months as well. Well, the big advantage of working in technology-enabled capabilities like big data and analytics is that you can work from anywhere in the world, really. There is no need to be physically present in office. And to be honest with you, that is the reason why I'm able to talk with all of you today. It's been 17 years since I passed out of DOMS, and over multiple occasions, I've had invitations and talk to the students, but the idea of traveling to Roorkee over a weekend was, it just couldn't materialize. But given the fact that we're doing this virtually this time, there was no reason why not to. So it's turned into an opportunity in a lot of ways. So what am I going to talk about today? I browsed through some of the videos. In fact, I browsed through almost all of the videos of the dignitaries and visionaries that have come and talked to you over the past 3 days. We've heard a lot about leadership already. Right? You guys have heard a lot about leadership. So I was thinking about what is it that I can incrementally bring to the table that doesn't put you to sleep. It's 2 p.m. on a Sunday. I'm sure most of you have had lunch, and I didn't want to give you more information on topics that have already been talked about previously. So I thought about doing 3 things really. First up, I will talk to you in detail about my career journey. The decisions that I made. How did I get to where I am right now from a career perspective, and give you my key learnings out of the decisions that I made, and hopefully when the time is right, you will be able to use them in your professional development in your career if you embark on your career out of Roorkee. The second thing that I'll do is I'll talk to you a little bit more in detail about analytics and data science itself. It's the hot topic these days. Data science is called the sexiest job, 21st century. There are so many terms that are flying around: data science, analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic process automation. What are all of these words? I'll try to paint a big picture kind of view for you guys, just to be able to make you better understand what is my perspective on the industry and what does all of this mean. Why is this such a big deal? What does it really amount to for a business? And hopefully when you go and have conversations with people, you'll be able to make better sense of what people are talking about, and you'll be more knowledgeable in terms of what all of this means. So that is the second section. And the third section is I want to talk about human capital management. So the topic is human capital management and the idea of leadership. Almost everybody has talked about leadership. There's been a lot of conversation about leadership. I don't think human capital management has really been talked about a lot, right? And I think the moment you step out of campus, few of you might get into leadership positions directly, but most of you or most of us have had to go through a journey of human capital management, which to me starts with managing ourselves first. So how well you're able to manage yourself then determines how well you're able to manage people around you, and then eventually get into leadership. So I thought I'll talk to you about a framework that has helped me a lot from a self-management and a human capital management perspective, and then I'll answer questions. So see where your mind is at. But even through those 3 sections, there is no way I will talk continuously for 40-45 minutes. I just don't. Just doesn't work like that with me. So I'll open it up for questions, and I'll open it up for comments, and I'll ask specific questions during the presentation as well for me to be able to hear from you as well, and we'll see how it goes. Sounds good? All right. So let me bring up the few slides that I created. Let me know when you guys are able to see my screen.
Yes, sir, we're able to see your screen.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So first up, like a few of your, I think, previous alumni have also mentioned, the moment I started to think about yesterday in terms of my time at Department of Management Studies, it brings back a lot of memories that I wanted to share with you. The introduction to the department and to IIT is obviously always a lot of, it's just amazing to listen to all of it. I'm very proud of all the achievements that the department has been able to get to now, to be able to hear some of them actually uh, brings goosebumps, and it's amazing. I wanted to share a couple of anecdotes with you that probably even you guys might not be aware of. So, I wanted to spend like just 5 minutes of showing you what life at dorms was in 2003. So this is a small little photo collage of some of the pictures that I dug out of, my collection. And I'll tell you why I dug out some of these. On this picture, the reason I dug this out is you see this board right at the back. It says Department of Management Studies. It's really really faded in here, but before the current building was established, before the current department infrastructure was established, and where we are all housed today, that only happened in 2002. So till middle of 2002, the Department of Management Studies actually used to operate out of the industrial engineering building right opposite to where the Azad Bhavan side is, and the industrial engineering department I'm sure is still there. So when we joined in 2001, uh, we spent our first year going through classes in that industrial engineering department, and the move into the new department building was just absolutely outstanding. You guys can't even believe the feeling that we had at that point in time to be able to have that infrastructure and that facility available to us after spending an hour as a part of the industrial engineering part. This is the new building. You can obviously see this is me 17 years ago. This is one of my batchmates, Anurag. He's the finance controller for EXL Capital based out of London now. This is we right outside of the new management studies building after it opened up. Nescafe was still there. So, in fact, Nescafe, if I remember correctly, also got established after we became an IIT. Before that, it was just the cafe. The way the lawn is set up was all still there, with those big chhatri type fixtures that are there. That was all there. But the Nescafe thing actually came about in 2002 after the move from UOR to IIT got finalized. This is not our batch picture. This is actually the music section at that point in time. I had auditioned for the music section and I got selected. We did a few performances also at that point in time. One was in the Senate. I remember the other one being at the hangar. I used to be a vocalist as well as played a little bit of guitar back then. So uh, it was a great time being a part of the music section. I'm sure the sections are still there, and I'm pretty sure they've increased as well. But it was a very key part of the experience, of the overall experience of being there. And this is the graduation picture right outside of the department. Also, I think during the introduction, you had correctly mentioned that after 2001, I think the inclusion of non-engineering backgrounds initiated in 2018. But from 98, when the department was established, till 2001, people with non-engineering backgrounds were, a part of the institute. And 2001, our batch was the last batch before 2018, in which we had students from all backgrounds, so engineering, commerce, even arts, if I'm not mistaken. So it was quite the mix at that point in time. So that was till 2003. Uh, this slide, in a nutshell, captures my journey since then. And I just want to run you guys through in terms of, what happened, what decisions did I make, and how did I go about. I got placed at TCS right out of campus. 2003 wasn't a great year in terms of placements. Obviously, you guys were way too small to know anything about this, but it was a depression kind of a year. And I don't think everybody in our batch even got placed. We were a batch of 60 people. And if I remember correctly, I think only 35 out of the 60 got placed on campus. So be able to land a job, even at that point in time, was not easy. It was a pretty big deal. So I was ecstatic with my placement at TCS at that point in time. Joined as an associate system analyst, had our training at Trivandrum for like 2.5, 3 months, and then got placed at Chennai as a programmer. That too in decades old technology, mainframe OS 390. I wasn't necessarily very happy about that. But I did make the effort to learn it really, really well. And in a matter of 6 to 8 months, I had gotten really proficient at writing COBOL code on OS 390 systems. A lot of the training that we had at TCS obviously helped with that, but it wasn't necessarily a career aspiration for me. To be honest with you, at that point in time, and I'm sure a lot of you will be able to relate with this, you don't know what is it that you are exactly looking to do. I mean, there are a few people that are very clear that, this is where my interest lies. I wasn't one of them. When I passed out of the institute, it was very important, obviously, to be able to, land a job. But if you ask me that did I exactly know what is it that I wanted to do at that point in time, well, absolutely not. Data analytics as an industry did not exist back then. In 2003, it was very, very nascent. So having an aspiration of working in analytics, there was no question of it because the industry did not exist. So anyway, I learned programming on mainframes at TCS, and while it wasn't necessarily something that I thought I wanted to do in the long term, I still found out that I had an interest in programming, in software development. So I could figure that it's something that I liked to do. From that, there was an opportunity to in a new project that required learning a new statistical language called SAS. SAS stands for Statistical Analytical Systems. It was brand new in 2004. Nobody at TCS really knew SAS, and they were looking to staff a project for a large American bank that required them to for somebody who knew SAS and could work on mainframes. So I already had learned mainframes well. Uh, I told my supervisor that I'll be more than happy to learn SAS, and that's what I did. So I actually learned SAS over like a weekend, 3 days, and that's how my journey into analytics started. So I learned SAS and started working at TCS for this large American, bank where the idea was to be able to build statistical controls for data quality, and that was the first time I actually started writing algorithms to be able to auto detect if there were any issues with data quality. That's how it really started out. So during this time, I figured that the operations research courses that I had done at Roorkee, both first year and second year, came in really handy because, a lot of simple distribution theory, understanding of normal distribution curves, combine that with the fact that I figured out that I like to program and code, allowed me the ability to be able to create programming that combined statistical concepts to be able to detect uh, issues in data. So that's when I began to realize that I have a thing for statistics and programming and combining them together. Remember, by this point in time, also analytics as an industry did not exist. I did that for a couple of years at TCS, and in 2006, I had gotten really good at running SAS and using SAS to be able to create statistical controls. By 2006, TCS had about 22,000 employees, and it was a billion-dollar company. So it was really large at that point in time. TCS and Infosys, like always, were neck to neck. At that point in time, Infosys was slightly ahead, but it was a good job to be in. It was comfortable. 8 hours of working every day. I was working on technology that I liked, but I felt in 2006 like I was not being pushed hard enough. Like I could do more, and I was 24, 25, 25, 26 years of age at that point in time. And I just felt like I wanted to do more. So I let go of that comfortable job that I was being very successful at TCS, and I joined a very small niche analytics startup at that point in time called Inductis. TCS, as I said, was a 20,000 people company. Inductis was all of about 20, 25 people in India back then. It was a New Jersey based startup. I think the total employee strength was 50, 55 people, of which 15 or 20 people were in India. Inductis was completely and totally into analytics, or what we now call data science, not machine learning. Machine learning hadn't come across back then, but analytics and data science. So I started enhancing my skills in SaaS and began to leverage it on much bigger, data volumes to be able to derive business insights. But I continued my domain focus in retail banking and credit cards. So while at Inductis, I start leading small teams of analytics team members, 3 to 5 member teams, and we used to pick up one project or two projects and deliver them for customers in a pretty short period of time. As it was a startup, so it used to push us really really hard. The other thing that happened at Inductis was that I also got exposed to a lot of other MBAs from other B schools that were working in very close proximity. That was not the case at TCS. As I said, TCS was very, very large. Largely, it was all engineers. So if you were at an MBA at that point in time in TCS, it was unlikely that you run into a lot of MBAs that you would work with or get compared to or get exposure to. At Inductis, 2.5 years after I passed out of DOMS, I was thrown into a mix in which there were MBAs from all the top B schools in the country, all of the IIMs, and other IITs, IIT Delhi, and we were all working on projects together, and the competition was very very real in terms of being able to make a difference and become better at what we do. We could also compare uh, skill sets with each other, and what we were good at, and strengths and weaknesses with other people at that point in time. Uh, Inductis got acquired by EXL, got to be known as EXL Data Decision Analytics, and I continued there till 2012. Completely working on the banking domain and multiple other things. So by that time, I'd spent a decade in doing analytics in the banking and credit card domain. I did this across Singapore, UK, US, multiple entities, till we got to a point when the problem statements began to repeat, and I felt like I'm not learning anything new, and that's when I joined Unitedhealth Group in 2012. Unitedhealth Group today is a $220 billion company. It's the sixth or the seventh largest company in terms of revenue in the United States. It's the largest healthcare company in the world. It does everything that you can think of from a healthcare domain. Self health, the largest healthcare insurance provider in the US. It runs hospitals, clinics. It helps governments across the world in improving healthcare services. And in 2012, they were looking to set up their first data science and analytics team in India. They did not have a centralized analytics and data science team till then, and I felt like it was a big risk, but I felt the opportunity was there because in healthcare the prevalence of analytics was really really low, and that's when I decided to let go of my core expertise at that point in time, which was analytics for banking and credit cards. I just completely let go of that and jumped into US healthcare, which I had absolutely no idea about. Uh, that was probably one of the best career moves that I made at that point in time, because I was right. There was just a lot to do and a lot to learn at Unitedhealth Group, from being able to leverage analytics to be able to make real business impact, whether it was improving healthcare outcomes for our members and patients, or to be able to reduce costs, or to be able to leverage deep learning and artificial intelligence for improving diagnostic outcomes for hospitals. We've been doing all of that, and the last 8-year journey has been just tremendous. In addition to all of these hard skills, I also felt that there was a need to unlearn and relearn some of the management concepts over the years. By 2013, 14, it had already been a decade since I, left B school. So I did one executive education program at ISB, I think sometime in 2014, which Unitedhealth Group funds. I did my next executive education program from the Graduate School of Business at Stanford, 2018, again funded by Unitedhealth Group. Just to ensure that uh, the learning never stops, because the management fundamentals that we learned at Department of Management Studies at IIT needs to be relearned, as the decade had passed. And even now, after spending 8 years at Unitedhealth Group, if you ask me, do I consider myself to be an expert at US healthcare? Absolutely not. It's just so large that the best part is it's every single day feels like you're learning something new, something you didn't know before. The other extremely interesting aspect of this is that analytics and data science and machine learning as an industry is growing so fast that there is something new happening every single day that you can apply to the business that you're learning. But anyway, so in a nutshell, I mean that was my journey after I left DOMS. The few things that I wanted to call out that really helped me, that I want you guys to know. In the first 3 to 5 years of my career, I made a conscious effort to pick up hard skill very, very quickly. In that point in time when we were competing against people from top B schools, we were all working on the same projects, being evaluated on the same metrics and the same measures. The campus that you come from does not really matter. Once you're inside a job, it doesn't matter whether which campus you're coming from. What matters is how good are you at your job. And there are really just two big components to that. Early on in your career, there isn't much to differentiate you with other people that are out there, because everybody is fresh, everybody is new. So what really sets you apart is that how quickly can you do your job? How fast are you? How good are you at being able to get work out of the way? Because that essentially dictates your ability to be able to take on more work. If you've been given a piece of work and you're sitting on it, while everybody else has finished their work, they're ready to do more, whereas you're still, sitting with what was given to you. So developing hard skill in the first 3 to 5 years is extremely important. MS Office was very important back then. It still is. Being able to create PowerPoints in a quick manner of time, being able to create Excel sheets. Something as simple as learning Excel shortcuts over a weekend was a game changer for me. Very early in my career, just one weekend, I practiced like 20, 25 really good Excel shortcuts that I still use, and these were the basic things. In addition to that, continuing to learn new programming languages as I went through my career was extremely important. I started with SAS. Nobody uses SAS anymore, so at some point in time it was R, then Python, and then so on and so on. Also, in the first 3 to 5 years, and actually for the first 8, 10 years, it is very easy to experiment. As I said earlier, there are a lot of people, and if you're one of them who just stepping out of campus does not know exactly what they would be interested in doing, it's completely fine, man. It's completely fine. That's what your first 3 to 5 years are to figure out. So start doing something and figure out if you like it. If you don't like it, move on to something else. There is no need to keep sticking on to something in the early stages of your career. It is important for you to be able to experiment, try out newer and newer things till you're able to get to a point where that, all right, this is something that I would love to do. So this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that fires me up, and I would love to do this. So you should be there in the first 3 years or 4 years if you've experimented and you've got exposed to multiple things over a period of time. So that's important. In the 6 years to 10 years or 12 years career, once I developed hard skills, once I had developed an understanding of what is it that I like to do, I realized storytelling was extremely important. Storytelling essentially, and I know there have been other speakers that have talked about it, so I'll not go into a lot of detail on it, but I completely agree with everything that has been said about the importance of being able to tell a good story. If you've done your job well, but you're not able to tell people what you did or why it makes a difference to the business, it's of no use. Nobody cares, right? So you have to be able to tie back what you have done with what difference does it make to the business? How is it beneficial? And you have to do it quickly and in a manner that people understand. Because if you're not able to do that, it's no good, right? And the third thing, the last thing that will allow you to do that, which is extremely important, for you to be able to tie everything back to the business, to be able to do a good story, is to understand the business domain that you're working in really, really well. That's why I think depth in domain is extremely important. The technologies keep changing. When I started out in analytics, none of the technologies that we have today were there. So I started out with something else, and you unlearn and you relearn. But the basic business fundamentals have remained the same. I spent 10 years in banking credit cards. Everything that I know about banking and credit cards is still relevant. I spent the last 8 years in US healthcare. And you can be effective with your work and what you're trying to do as an analyst or as a capability leader only if you're able to relate it back to the business that you're trying to help. And you will be able to do that only if you know that business well. That's why I'm not a big fan of changing business domains very, very frequently, because in my opinion, that does not allow you to build sufficient depth and expertise in a given business domain. Right? I believe that depth and expertise in business domains is extremely important for you to be effective. All right, so I know I've rattled on for like 30 minutes at this point in time on just a single slide. So any questions or thoughts at this point, guys? Otherwise, I'll proceed.
Sir, Internet of Things is something which is being adopted a lot in the healthcare sector, especially
Okay,
the
massively.
automation of tools and all those things. So I just want to know how it's going to transform and if it will also percolate to other sectors, because predominantly it's been focused a lot on internet. I think healthcare sector as of now. So just
That's a
wanted
good
to
question. So I will keep it with me, and I'm going to talk about that in a subsequent slide. So I'll cover it there if it's okay with you.
okay.
Anything else
Sir,
related
I
to
have
everything
one
I've
doubt.
shared so far?
May I proceed? Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Sir, how difficult it is if I want to change my domain? Like you are analyst, and after 2 years, if I feel that I am not liking that job and I want to switch it to marketing or anything specific to finance,
Yeah.
so how difficult it would be, or I should
Sooner you do it,
focus.
the better. That's a very off-task question. The sooner you do it, the better, because the deeper you keep getting into a certain specific area, it becomes more and more difficult to start doing completely something different from a skill perspective. Not from an industry perspective. You can change industries as long as you're carrying the same skill. But if you don't like the skill that you're developing in a particular job, then it's better to change sooner than later, because whenever you get into a new skill, you'll essentially have to literally start afresh. You will not get the benefit of the experience that you've built in developing a skill in a particular area unless it is replicable to the new industry that you're moving into. But that, so in my example, for example, if early on I would have determined that coding or programming is not for me, and I would have still continued to code or program for the next 5 years, it would have been very difficult for me to get out of programming and start to do something else like sales. So if you determine that programming is not for you, better to move on to something else early on in your career. But I liked programming, and when I moved from banking to healthcare, uh, programming and data science was still applicable. So I was just able to continue with that and just apply it to a new business area. So,
So
all
if
right.
I am may I proceed? So if I am a guy who is inclined towards sales or marketing, so would you advise me that I should not apply for the roles of analytics which are coming into campus?
Well, that's if you really know already that your aptitude is towards sales and marketing, and you prefer you would not prefer doing a desk job, I would not recommend applying in a role for data science and analytics, because these are completely disparate, two different worlds. But that is only if you are very clear from that perspective in your mind, and if you've done it in the past. I did not have any prior experience when I was at DOMS. I had just completed my graduation. I had no prior work ex, so I wasn't as clear in my mind in terms of what is it that I wanted to do or what would I enjoy. So I applied for everything, and I landed at TCS, and I liked what I was doing. So I was lucky like that. But that's why I mentioned that if you're clear with something, it would be better to go with it. But if you're not, use the first couple of years, 3 years, to experiment, do multiple things, and see what you like.
Thank you, sir.
All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on. We just have 25 minutes remaining on this one. So let's talk about analytics for like 10, 15 minutes before we move on to the idea of human capital management. So I'm sure some of you or most of you have read this quote: "Information is the oil of the 21st century. Analytics is the combustion engine." Came from Peter from Gartner Research. Why is that the case? Why the 21st century? What do you think has changed? Any thoughts, guys? What changed in the last 25,
The
30 years that
internet
analytics
and
became such a big deal?
information has become very, very free, because there are too much information being produced right now. Data
Too
is
much information. Okay.
data is produced
Data.
at much larger rate.
Yeah, that's better. Just way too much data right now, right? So that's the first point I wanted to bring out. There were 5 exabytes of information between the dawn of civilization to 2003, but that information is now created every 2 days. Can you guys believe it? Every 2 days, there is 5 exabytes of information that's created. It's coming from Eric Schmidt, the ex-chairman of Google. So there is a data explosion, right? Everything around us is creating new and new data about our preferences, about what we're doing, social media, Internet of Things, to the question that was raised earlier. Every single thing that we do online creates more and more data. There's just a lot of data explosion that's happening. What else? What else? That is definitely one of the most important factors. What else? There is another.
Computational power.
Computational power. Absolutely. Bang. You can have ridiculously enormous and complex data set, but if you have the right tools and methodology, then it's not a problem, right? The right tools and the methodologies have evolved right from when I started working working in analytics. In 2004, having a 2 terabyte data store for all of Inductis was adequate. Can you believe it? 2 terabytes of data store. We used to run, the entire company used to do all of its analytics on a 2 terabyte data storage environment. There was no concept of distributed computing. If we had to work on a data set that was probably running into gigabytes, we would run the code through the night, to a point where now the data store that we currently have today in my organization runs into more than hundreds of terabytes, and gigabytes and gigabytes of data sets are routinely processed and munched. So the computational power and the ability to be able to just put just hardcore compute on problems has tremendously increased. So what has that resulted in? So what has that resulted in? There are a lot of impacts that you see for that. Max, co-founder of PayPal, says the world is now awash in data, and we can see consumers in a lot clearer ways. We are able to distinguish between different consumers in terms of their preferences, what would they like, what would they not like. When I was working at, during my banking and credit card analytics days, we used to build models day in and day out that could predict if a person was likely to accept a credit card application, if or make accept a credit card offer if we called them. So I'm sure you guys have seen offers come into you, or people calling you up on your phones to offer you products. A lot of that is now at an individual level. we are able to predict at an individual level what is the likelihood that this person will sign up for an offer. It could be a Netflix offer, it could be a new credit card, it could be a new SIM card for your phone, it could be a subscription to a newsletter. What is the likelihood that you, as a person, are likely to accept that if we spend the money in calling you up or sending you an email? All of that is possible because of the individual level information that became available and the compute that's available for us to be able to process it. Another completely different use case that Vinod Khosla talks about, who found Sun Microsystems, is big data will replace the need for 80% of all doctors. Where is that coming from? This is the realm of artificial intelligence that we'll talk about a little bit more. So the example on the left is how data is helping us know more about our consumers so that we can, make better offers for them, that we can sell to them. The one on the right is completely different. The one on the right is saying that something that we felt or we've known to be so critical to mankind, doctors, can be replaced by big data. Well, how? Let's talk about it a little bit more. So
I think by
yeah,
analyzing various data sets of various symptoms that persons feel for various things, various diseases, or by analyzing that data set, we figure out the most likely disease is having.
correct, Sachin, absolutely bang on. That's what it is. That's where it gets into the realm of artificial intelligence. But I've thrown all of these terms at you in the last 40 minutes or so. I've said analytics, I've said data science, I've said machine learning, I've said artificial intelligence. Have you guys ever thought if they're all the same, or what is the difference between these terms? Any insights, thoughts?
There are actually many algorithms we use in machine learning, like all the like anything, so logistic regression and all, they have been derived from theoretical computer science only. So
Correct.
the base is that from that all these disciplines have emerged over time.
Yes, that is true. So
They are related, so fundamentally at
they
a
are
core
related.
level
Yes,
they're related.
everybody will tell you that they're related, but how do they play in the same space? What is the difference between analytics and data science versus machine learning and artificial intelligence? Here is another thing that really resonated with me. I have been interviewing across campuses and for freshers and engineering campuses and MBA campuses and lateral candidates for hiring for my team over at least the last 12 years, if not more. And when you ask a candidate about their experience in analytics or data science, or what is their understanding of analytics and data science, usually you get answers that are a big jumble of these terms and jargon that in a lot of cases people themselves are not very clear about what do they mean and in what context are they throwing it out. So I've been in interviews where in 30 minutes people would say big data 40 times. Just by saying big data again and again doesn't mean anything, man. If that's your approach towards making somebody feel like you really know what you're talking about, it's not the right thing to do. So one thing that I want to call out is that while there is a lot of jargon that's going around, as if you're interested in building a career in data science and analytics, eventually getting to a point early on where you talk about these terms judiciously and in a meaningful way is going to become extremely important, because these terms are being thrown around like anything right now, and that's not obviously helping anyone. And the other thing is that practitioners are very easily able to differentiate when you're just using the term for the sake of it versus when you actually know what you're talking about. All right, so what is my opinion on the difference between data science and analytics and artificial intelligence and machine learning? I think analytics is the broader bucket, the big window. Everything that has to do with data and processing data for multiple purposes gets covered under this big bucket of what is called analytics. So it's really the biggest umbrella right at the top. But now within analytics, what matters is what are you using the analytics for? If you think about what is the outcome or what is the impact that you're trying to create for the business, that's where it begins to get interesting and some differentiation emerges. The example that I was taking earlier, if you're using analytics to enable a human to make a better decision, that to me leverages data science, statistics, core analytics. This can happen in a lot of ways. All of the business intelligence work that you see, creation of visualizations, charts, reports, management information systems, embedding predictive models into operations for us to be able to either figure out if a person is likely to accept an offer or not, if a person is likely to default on a loan or not. Our ability to make a better decision as a human, if the analytics is enabling me to make a decision, but I'm still making the decision, I categorize that as data science driven analytics. That is data science. Whereas the other end of that is that if the human is being, if the machine is being trained to make the decision like a human, that is machine learning and artificial intelligence. So these two are very, very different things. A lot of people are not able to differentiate between the fact that in a lot of cases when we do analytics, we are actually not replacing a human who's eventually going to make the decision. We are just helping him with the right information and the right insights to be able to make the right decisions for the business. It could be anything, as I talked through, a couple of examples. If you're training a machine to be able to make a decision that in the past a human used to make, well, that's machine learning and artificial intelligence. That's where the realm starts. You're not enabling a human to make a decision. You're replacing the human and you're essentially training a machine to be able to go and do that, right? So in a way, the way you can look at it is that the machine is going to make a decision that is trained using the decisions that humans have been making, So it's not like the decisions are going to immediately get better. It's just that we'll be able to do it much more faster. So, if a manual person is able to make a decision on look at something and say, this is what we should do on 10 objects in a day, a machine might be able to do 100. So, it's much faster. But the important aspect here is that as more and more data becomes available and artificial intelligence systems get access to more and more and more and more data, they can learn from it and eventually get to a point where that decision making becomes better than a single individual human, right? That is how artificial intelligence and machine learning helps save dollars for companies. It essentially increases throughput by, automating decisions that were traditionally being made by humans. But does that mean that we won't need humans for decision making anymore? Well, absolutely not. So there is a concept of broad AI versus narrow AI. What we've gotten really good at from a machine learning and artificial intelligence standpoint is to train machines to do something very, very specific. That's called narrow AI. Very specific. So, for example, you can, I'm sure you've seen articles and examples of where machines have been trained to beat grandmasters at chess, or other such games that are completely driven by logic and rules. So, currently artificial intelligence applications are happening where machines can learn a very specific task. Look at a picture and identify what's in it, diagnose a disease, better. But what people think of when they think of AI is is called general AI. When they start thinking about robots, or when they start thinking about C3PO, or Terminator and the likes, and we are nowhere near the complexity that's required for anything that that's going to happen in the realm of general AI being applied in business right now. Reinforcement learning is getting there with a few use cases, but right now in business, what is happening is you're training machines for a specific task by feeding it a lot of data and the past decisions that have been made. And the machine is essentially just learning how the decision was made using just a bunch of data for a specific task. Spam filters are a good example of that, that all tech giants use. The ability to be able to identify a particular face in a photo is a good example of that. So that's how I distinguish between data science, which enables humans to make better decisions, versus artificial intelligence and machine learning, which trains a computer or a machine to make a decision that was being made by a human. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions at this point.
Sir, you mentioned reinforcement learning, sir. It's an example of what's the narrow AI or broad AIs or the wider AI?
It's moving into the wider, broader AI
Okay,
sense,
okay.
but still very, very early days.
Sir, Sthitapragya here. So pardon me for interrupting you, sir, but if we could end the session, if we could go over the presentation and try to end it in the next 5 minutes. We have some time constraints and really helpful. Sir.
Okay, sure, we can do that. All right, so
Thank you,
this
sir.
is the last section. I'll just spend 2 minutes on it. Let's talk about human capital management as an approach. So, working through analytics, one thing that I learned over the years is that you have to deal with people with multiple kind of skill sets, multiple kind of backgrounds, multiple kind of attitudes. And you work with them as colleagues, you work with them as managers, and there is no one size that fits all. So being able to take an adaptive approach towards human capital management is extremely important. So the 2x2 that you see on the slide shows supportive behavior and a directive behavior from a manager's perspective. And if the supportive behavior is very high and the directive behavior is also very high, then you take a coaching style. Whereas the supportive behavior is low and you're just essentially just using a more directive kind of approach, then it could be directing and so on and so forth. But essentially, there are multiple approaches that can be taken on when you think about human capital management, and a one size fit all approach does not work. So as a manager or eventually as a leader, you have to look at the situation, you have to look at the individual that you're dealing with and really adapt your leadership style to the person that you're dealing with. The more important aspect of this is, as an employee, as an individual, as a person, how do you use this to understand what is it that you need to do to manage yourself, right? These are the 4 different attributes or 4 different combinations of attributes that require the relevant supervisory style that's mentioned on top. High competence, high commitment. If you have high competence and you're committed to your job, there is no need for your manager to be directive, and he just needs he can just completely hand over the job to you and let you work independently on it. So that's delegation. If you have high competence but not consistent in terms of your commitment, if there is variability there, in that case the manager will have to come in and essentially check in on are you doing well or not. It needs to be supportive. However, if there is some competence but a low level of commitment, then the person would have to coach you, sit with you, tell you what needs to be done on an ongoing basis. And the last one is, if there is low competence and low commitment, then you would see a directing style where the manager would essentially say, do what I'm saying. Because at that point in time, what essentially saying is the guy doesn't know what to do and he has a really low commitment to learn. So while leadership style and management style are important, it is also important to be able to look inside and say that, why is it that a particular leadership or managerial style is being adopted with me? Is my manager feeling like I have inconsistent commitment to my job? Are there competence gaps that I can fill? Is there a certain skill set that I can pick up and become better from a competence standpoint? And, is there something that is lacking from a commitment standpoint, so that I can quickly move from being directed to being able to work independently, and where the manager can really leave the job to me and let me handle it? That's how growth happens. This is not. This is a very well established and researched model of leadership. It's called situational leadership, and it's pretty old, right? The first theory came out in 1960s. So I just wanted to introduce this to you guys and give you a chance to be able to read through it when you get a chance. This has really helped me in the way I have talked about leadership style and adopted them in different situations. I hope you guys will be able to do the same. So that's the material that I had. If if you have time, we are right at 2:55. If you have time for questions, I'm here. If you want to send them to me separately, we can do that.
Yes, sir. We have a few questions from the batch.
Sure.
Is it okay if I take it right now?
Yeah, of course.
So the first question is, how is artificial intelligence and data science expected to transform the healthcare sector?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Some answers of that you can imagine are pretty straightforward. The first simplest thing that comes to mind is our ability to be able to take cost out of the system and make healthcare affordable for everyone. Right? Be able to automate processes, make insurance costs cheaper. That is the simplest answer. Predict if a particular claim is fraudulent, and prevent fraud from happening. And through all of that, you essentially take cost out of the system and make sure that everybody is able to get access to healthcare insurance by making it cheaper. That's the simple answer. Where things are getting more interesting are, can we help people lead more healthier lives by being able to use data science and analytics to begin to anticipate if they are likely to be at a health risk. If we know that if with using clinical information or past information that we know about people, if there is a way for us to figure out if a person is more likely to have coronary disease over the next 6 to 8 months or a year, and if we can proactively intervene and get them on programs that would prevent them, prevent disease from happening before it happens, that will eventually improve the healthcare standard and improve the healthcare outcomes for a lot of people. In addition to that, by being able to leverage artificial intelligence in the areas like disease diagnostics, we are able to free up time of doctors so that the overall coverage with the same amount of medical staff increases. Using convoluted neural networks, there is a lot of work that companies, including ours, have done in being able to use algorithms to look at a clinical image and diagnose with as much accuracy as a doctor would if a particular patient has a disease. So if you're able to automate that process, we'll be able to go through the diagnostic processes very, very quickly, and the doctors will be able to find more time to spend with patients, thereby increasing coverage and reducing the amount of time that it takes for a disease to be diagnosed. So those are a few examples of being able to do that. Let me tie it back to the Internet of Things question that came about. All of you are familiar with Fitbits and the Apple Watches of the world that are generating real-time data for millions of people across the world that is now being integrated with, information like gender, age, clinical background, and so on and so forth. So that is helping us preempt severe conditions in people by being able to pull all of this information together and create a singular health profile for people.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll be taking up just one last question.
Sure.
How do we keep pace in an industry where technology evolves very fast?
Yeah. We have to constantly, we have to do two things. One, we have to keep track of what is changing, what's happening, what's coming in new. So, being informed is extremely important, because if you're not informed, you'll not be able to make the right decision or, the right call in terms of what you need to get yourself trained on. So continuously reading and having triggers set up in terms of your interest areas so that Google or other services are able to push the right content to you is very important, so that what new is happening in the space. And then proactively going out and continuously learning newer and newer technologies that are coming out, if that's your interest area, is very important. And that's become so much easier now, with Coursera and YouTubes of the world and multiple other online training platforms. Being able to go and learn and upskill yourself has never been easier. And, that is the only way to do it. Number one, be very informed in terms of what's changing. Number two, continuously proactively learn what interests you and what you think is going to be the next big thing.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, if we could end the session right now. Before that, so firstly, thank you for letting us catch a glimpse of your journey. It is beyond inspirational. In fact, I can say for the whole batch that it felt transcending. Coming to our event, thank you, sir, for sharing your experience and giving us the insight to reskill, learn new things, and focus on building technical skills in order to advance in our careers. As budding managers, we shall focus on our respective domains in order to be ready for the corporate world. It won't be an exaggeration to say that your insights and the advice gained in this session will help us in pursuing our future endeavors. Thank you so much again, sir, for giving
Thank
some
you.
of your time for this session. Also,
Thank you very much
I,
for having me, and I wish all of you guys all the best for for your future endeavors and your careers. I'm sure all of you will be very, very successful. Thank you very much. Feel free to reach out
thank,
to me in case you need help or if you have any questions. I'm always there for you. Thank you.
thank, thank you, sir. Sir, also, I'm delighted to tell you that on this occasion of Avenir, we have taken an initiative Breaking Darkness. Avenir
Okay.
means future, and the best way to add meaning to the event would be to help shape the future and helping someone grow. There's no
Mhm.
better helping hand for growth than education. So each year, starting from this year, Department of Management Studies will be donating a sum to Hope Foundation, sponsoring the education of underprivileged girl children in honor of the guest speakers gracing the conclave.
That's great.
Thank you, sir.
That's
And
great. That's a great initiative. I am fully supportive of it. And let me know if there's anything else that I can do to be able to contribute to it.
sure, sir. And right before we end, we have a small token of thank you for you. If my batchmates can please.
That's amazing, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. It's been a wonderful experience of interacting with you
Thank you, sir.
today. Bye.